Aloha mai kākou. Welcome back for another segment of Moʻolelo Monthly. I am Lehua, and this month we are talking story with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs DC Bureau Chief Keone Nakoa. We will be sharing information about EHCC or Eale Hawaiian Cultural Center's RISE scholarship program and learn more about Keone's journey from Hawaii to here. Aloha e Keone, pehea oi.
Maika'i, mahalo for having me, allowing me to join with you folks for this great opportunity. Lehua, it's always a pleasure to speak with you, and I look forward to having a little kuka session.
Hi, mahalo. Mahalo for sharing valuable time with Eala. So let's jump right in. In the next 15 minutes, we're going to be exploring a little bit more about Keone. So the first question that I would like to ask is, can you please share with all of us who you are and what your job is in DC here? Like, what do you do?
Sure. So just maybe let me just start with I was born and raised in Nu'uanu, in Honolulu, Hawaii. Graduated from Iolani High School, and then I went away to college on the East Coast. And so, I think that experience was one that really set the tone for how, kind of unknowingly, set the tone for how my career would take shape in continuing on the East Coast, and or at least away from home. So I'm the Washington D.C. Bureau Chief for the Office of Foreign Affairs currently, and in that role, I serve as the Chief Federal Advocate for the Office of Foreign Affairs. For those of you who don't know, we're a semi-autonomous state agency, and our mission is to care for the betterment of Native Hawaiians. And our office specifically carries out that mission in terms of advocating for Native Hawaiians to be included in federal policies and programs that will better the Native Hawaiian community and implement the federal trust responsibility to Native Hawaiians. But that being said, I also, in my position, really I'm happy that it allows me to kua with Native Hawaiian organizations and communities back home and on the mainland or on the continent. So good to work with you guys as always. ELA is such a great group to bring forward and enrich the Native Hawaiian culture to those of us who are not back home.
Aye. We are so happy that there is a branch here, and not a lot of people in the communities, both near and far, are aware that OHA has a branch in Washington, D.C. So for those of you who are not aware that, they've been here for how long, Keone? Do you know how long, OHA has been in the area?
So I believe I could be mistaken, but I believe that the first, and it didn't look anything like it was, like it does today. But I believe that the first started around 2005 or 2006.
Oh, wow. Wow.
About 15 years. But yeah, and then since then, the mission has changed a little bit and grown. And I think in the very beginning, the office was meant to be a lot of community outreach, and working with Native Hawaiians up here, like you guys, to push forward on big issues. And I think the biggest issue at the time was the Government Reorganization Act, that some people call the Akaka Bill. But now our office handles a much broader range of federal issues, all legislation, any kind of legislation that deals with Native Hawaiians, or any federal agencies regulations as well.
Yeah, that's so good to have representation here. And yeah, we definitely look forward to all the different events where you folks are at, because OHA's everywhere. They're very, interacting with the community in so many different ways. So we're very, very happy about that. So what made you decide to move to DC?
For me, it was just that this opportunity came up. So after college, maybe I should pick up a little bit more about my history. After college, I worked for Senator Akaka. I was fortunate enough to have that opportunity to work for him for 4 years. I started off as a staff assistant, and then became a legislative correspondent / press assistant, and then a caseworker, and then a speechwriter finally, for about the last 2 years of his career in Congress. So after that, I went back home to go to law school. Went to the University of Hawaii Richardson, William S. Richardson School of Law. Graduated and then practiced law for a little while. But then my involvement actually in the Association of Hawaiian Civic Clubs. I'm a member of the Prince Kuhio Hawaiian Civic Club, and some of that, as well as the activities of just all my friends from the Richardson School of Law, really pushed me to do more and more Native Hawaiian issues. And so I was practicing law in Honolulu and wanted to do more specifically for Native Hawaiian issues. And then this job came along. One of my friends was working for OHA at the time, and he let me know about this. And it just made a lot of sense and fit what I was looking to do. So my wife and I decided to make the move to DC. So it's been a very enriching experience ever since we decided to move up here about 3 years ago.
Wow. That's awesome. That's a very inspirational story, but it's so interesting how opportunities come from word of mouth or, who It's not a lot, a lot of it is, making those networking connections. So we're so pleased and happy that, you had that conversation. So here you are in DC. That's awesome. Now, were you hesitant about your decision to move? If so, how did you overcome it? And if not, why was the choice such a comfortable one?
I think so. For me, maybe I should say that the first time I moved to DC, I was a little hesitant, and that was when I was working when I came up here to work for Senator Akaka. A little hesitant, only because it's a new place I'd never been in before, but because I went away for school, so I spent 4 years up in Boston and knew I could at least handle the winter, so I had comfortability there. But originally, I was only going to come up here for a year to work for Senator Akaka and then come back and go to law school. Obviously, that didn't work out that way, and I think a lot of times what you hear from a lot of the staff on the Hill is that, yeah, they were only anticipating coming up for a year, and then 4 years later, or in some cases 10 years later, they're still there. And I think that just speaks to the kind of work that you get to do on the Hill and in DC in general is very unlike work that you'll be able to do anywhere else. So I think especially if you have a certain interest in that public service and caring for federal policies, especially Native Hawaiian policies or some pieces that you just can't do at the state level or county at home. It's harder to do. DC is really the place that you'd have to come to move forward in that area. So it's a little bit of hesitancy just around a new place, but ultimately the opportunities, for me personally to work for Senator Kaka, the first Native Hawaiian in the United States Senate, and to work for my state, my community, really outweighed any of those hesitancies. And again, fortunately, because I went away for college, I was able to at least have that background of knowing that I could kind of take care of myself and be away from home for that long, and definitely handle the winters. That was the biggest, most scary thing initially coming from Hawaii, right?
Yeah, and that's a very good point because you coming the first time, you already have a taste of what to expect, and so anytime thereafter, it's kind of still new, but at least you had that first blush impression, and you've sort of managed that. And then when you're here, you have so many passions around what you do that you want to continue that. So so as an individual for yourself, you've extended, and you've continued your journey here in DC, which is super interesting because at first blush, as you were saying, it was, the cold, you don't know what else to expect, but the first time around, you made it, you did it, you survived it. Second time, can can the second time. That's great. That's awesome.
I also really have to give credit to my mom or to my parents because they allowed me to be able to do that, because they said, we're home, we can always come home, go and explore and do. And, so thankful to have that kind of support. I think that's really important for young people too.
That's absolutely important to have that opportunity to know that you have, a place to go back to, and, your ohana's always there rooting for you, and they're your number one fan and in your support system. That is truly important, because otherwise, for anyone who's traveling this way, especially coming right out of high school, the ability to be successful stems a lot from your ohana. So yeah, for sure, for sure. So how do you stay connected to Hawaii while living in DC? Of course, through work, it's very organic, right? Because it's OHA. What other ways do you try to stay connected outside of work or even within work to keep both you and your wife, Stephanie, connected?
Yeah, I think, well, I should say, normal times. uh, one of the biggest thing that I really enjoyed was connecting with you folks. You know, the various Native Hawaiian or Hawaiian groups, Hawaii groups in the area make, when we're together, it always feels like Hawaii. It always feels like home, no matter where we are, what time of the year it is, and that kind of aloha, you just feel right, and then so I think that's first and foremost the really important support group. And I was amazed to see how many groups and how many people from Hawaii there are in DC, and how welcoming everyone is. Um, I think that's a really good uh, way to stay connected. Of course, now with Zoom and everything, you can also, everyone, before it was just FaceTime, but everyone's just one phone call away, or one Zoom call away, and you can stay connected in that way. And honestly, um, I felt just as connected to my family back home as I did to my coworkers who just live half an hour away from me, because all I would see was people in these boxes, right? Um, but I'll also say that another big way to connect to back home is during pandemic, we learned to cook a lot of our local kind recipes. So little taste of home and comfort food, it goes a long way as well.
That is so true, because in our culture, we share company, and we get that through Zoom, and then we share food like mea'ai. So for many families, that's definitely what happened. We became more proficient in cooking, baking,
Yeah.
gardening, a lot of indigenous practices definitely, was highlighted during the COVID time, because we're all kind of put in. But it's a great way for us to stay connected, is by actually, participating in those culturally connected pieces that, reminds us of home, or some of the things that we used to do when we're back home, or continue to do while we're here. Yeah. So yeah, my ka'i, that's really good. That's really good. So has living and working in DC, has that elevated your career? If so, how?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. And really, it's just because there's just so much opportunity, room for growth. Um, it's such a fast-paced lifestyle. Being in DC, and there's such a broad range of job opportunities, and networking and support opportunities as well. Um, I never would have been able to handle any of the issues and experiences that I got in DC had I not left Hawaii. Or it would have been a lot more difficult. There's just a lot fewer chances to get into those positions. But in DC, there's so many offices. There's of course the Hawaii delegation, and a lot of local people end up working for the Hawaii delegation. But looking at my coworkers who had been working for Senator Kaka, now they're all over the hill, all over the federal agencies. And I think that's both a testament to um, emphasis that Senator Kaka placed on bringing Native Hawaiians and bringing Hawaii people and advocates for Native Hawaiians up to DC and having them into this pipeline of public service. And then also the support work that organizations like OHA and others have had to support that work throughout the years. And so now I think you're seeing more of a stronger network of people from Hawaii and specifically Native Hawaiians. Looking at Crystal Ka'ai, she's now executive director of the White House Initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, Pacific Islanders. And she was a former OHA intern back in the day. Used to work for Senator Kaka on the Senate Committee on Indian Affairs. And so, I think just having those kinds of opportunities and being able to connect with those people who have such genuine passion and aloha for our people in Hawaii goes a long way. And so you won't be able to make those connections necessarily or as easily back home.
No, for sure. Like understanding your resources and the folks who are in the area. I think a lot of people aren't aware that there are so many folks from Hawaii that live here that can support, the journey, whoever chooses to decide to come to this side. There's so many individuals, so many hui that can uplift and, support groups, individuals that come this way from Hawaii to make them feel like they're home again. Yeah. So, Crystal Ka'ai, you are right, is a great example. I worked with her on the Kamehameha Alumni Association here on the East Coast region. So for her to see her elevation as well as, of course, yours, it's so beautiful to see the growth over time for the individuals that do such impactful work. So very exciting times for those who are interested in coming, now that COVID is, kind of lifting and folks are getting, the traveling is getting a little bit more comfortable. We're hoping that folks take the opportunity, to see things here as a way of, doing good work, good and industrious work, yeah, in all that they do. So that kind of summarizes and ends our time. So Keone, mahalo nui loa for joining us today. We wish you and your ohana like blessings in abundance. And do you have any other further pieces to share?
Same to you. Always a pleasure to see you and your family and your beautiful children dancing hula. It's so moving, to see the culture being passed on and living 5,000 miles away from home. And I will say, if there are anyone else in LA or in the community who wants to talk story or connect, I'm more than happy to do that. And I think, like what you're saying, a lot of us who have been here for a while would love to talk story with people who are interested in coming up. Just let us know.
That's so good. Okay, everybody, the invitation's out. We are so, again, blessed and thankful for you to be talking story kuka kuka with us today for LA Hawaiian Cultural Center's Moʻolelo Monthly. Ahui ho, malama pono.
Aloha.